You know that feeling when your stomach drops before you even open the message? That's what happened when I got the group chat notification. The one titled, Family Christmas. The one I had been part of every single year since I was 17. I was not in it anymore. I didn't leave. I didn't mute it. I was just removed. It was December 18th. A week before Christmas. And while I was wrapping presents for people who clearly didn't want me around, my cousin Tasha casually texted me, "Hey, did you decide not to come this year? Everyone's already in town." That's how I found out. They had all gathered. My parents, my 2 brothers, their girlfriends, our cousins, uncles, aunts, everyone. At the family lake house. The same one we'd celebrated in every year, complete with the matching pajamas and the stupid white elephant gift exchange. I wasn't invited. Not even a text. I stared at my phone. Heart racing. I scrolled through my inbox. My voicemail. Nothing. No call. No message. Nothing from my mother. My father. Not even from Devin. My youngest brother, the one I helped pay through college. They just left me out. I didn't know what I had done. I mean, yeah, there had been tension earlier that year. Mostly around money. I'd pulled back from helping out like I used to. I stopped covering bills and emergency expenses. Not because I was bitter, but because I was finally setting boundaries. And maybe that was the problem. See, they were used to me being the fixer. When Dad's business went under, I wrote the first check. When Devin got kicked out of his apartment, I paid the deposit. When Mom's credit card debt nearly buried her, I negotiated it for her. And for years, I did it because I thought family meant sacrifice. But sacrifice became expectation. And expectation became resentment. Still, I never thought they'd do this. That night, I sat in my apartment, alone, watching their posts go up like digital slaps to the face. Matching red flannel pajamas. Selfies with cocoa mugs. Devin popping champagne on the deck. Even a post from Mom. So grateful for my beautiful united family this Christmas #blessed. My chest burned. But the worst part? It hadn't even happened yet. Christmas was still a week away. I didn't say anything. I didn't text. I didn't call. I told myself, let them play their little games. I'll celebrate with my own peace this year. And then, 4 days later, the invoice arrived. I was on a Zoom call for work when the email pinged. I clicked it without thinking. And there it was. Subject, reimbursement request. Family Christmas surprise. Amount, $70,415.68. Sender, Mom. CC, Dad, Devin, Uncle Ray, Aunt Janice. I thought it was a joke. Some elaborate prank. But no, it was real. A full PDF attachment, itemized and neatly formatted. The line items? Down payment on Devin's Christmas gift. Mercedes-Benz GLE Coupe. Custom wrap plus delivery fees. Tax. Title. Registration. Split evenly among family members. $70,415.68/1 equals $70,415.68. Because apparently, since I was no longer contributing monthly to the family pot, they assumed I could cover the entire thing myself. For Christmas. I stared at the screen in disbelief. They bought my brother a luxury SUV, behind my back, and decided I'd foot the whole bill. My hands shook. I called my mother. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Same. Finally, she texted back. Didn't want to stress you during the holidays. Figured you'd understand. Devin deserves something nice after everything. Consider it your gift to the family. My gift? I could feel my blood boiling in my fingertips. They didn't invite me. They excluded me. And then they billed me, like some faceless ATM machine, for a gift I didn't agree to, wasn't told about, and frankly, would have never approved. I replied, I'm not paying. You'll hear from my attorney if you push this further. That was the last straw. Because in that moment, I realized something deeply ugly. This wasn't just thoughtlessness. This was premeditated. They'd made a decision. If I wasn't going to be their emotional crutch and financial safety net anymore, then I didn't deserve a seat at the table. But my bank account? Still welcome. Still open for looting. That's when the switch flipped in my mind. The version of me they knew? The one who kept giving, kept forgiving? She was gone. I didn't get mad. I got methodical. I pulled up a spreadsheet I hadn't touched in over a year. One I used to track every dollar I'd gifted or loaned to my family. Every college payment. Every rent deposit. Every emergency flight, last-minute loan, or temporary support transfer. It totaled $181,000. All unpaid. I gathered every transfer receipt. Every text where they promised to pay me back. Every email thanking me for covering this just until next month. Then I did something I'd never done before. I lawyered up. My attorney drafted demand letters, one to each family member. The terms were clear: repayment plans or formal legal action. I wasn't bluffing. I also contacted the dealership that sold Devin the Mercedes. Thanks to some digging and a discreet call, I found out the car had been purchased under my name. Yes, they used my credit history and prior approvals, from a past co-signing mistake, to get the vehicle delivered. Without my permission. So I reported the fraud. And finally, I sent a final message to the family group chat, the new one they created without me. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't curse. I simply wrote, "Thank you for showing me exactly where I stand. Consider this your last withdrawal from my life. You wanted to celebrate without me? Congratulations. You just gave me the gift of clarity." I blocked every one of them. All of them. This Christmas, I might have eaten alone, but for the first time, I wasn't choking on guilt or obligation. I was full. And I had just begun. Silence. That was their first response after my message to the group chat. No panic. No apologies. No explanations. Just digital silence, as if they were holding their breath, waiting for me to crack. Maybe they thought I'd feel guilty again. That I'd panic at the thought of suing my own family. That I'd back down once the dust settled and start handing out forgiveness like holiday cookies. They didn't know I'd been preparing for this kind of moment my entire life. 2 days later, the dealership called. They had received the fraud report and flagged the purchase. I gave them everything: proof of identity theft, text messages between my brother and my mother that I'd found from a cloud backup they forgot I had access to. One message from Mom to Devin, sent weeks before the car was delivered, read, "Just use her name. She won't say anything. She never does. This is the least she can do after everything. This is the least she can do." After everything? You mean after giving up vacations, down payments, and sleep to cover your endless fires? After watching you praise Devin to the heavens for getting a job I referred him to? While you made excuses about why I couldn't find a man? After everything. And I still wasn't enough? The dealership froze the vehicle title. The registration? Suspended. They even suggested I file a police report for insurance purposes. I didn't say yes. Not yet. Because what I really wanted was for them to know I was capable of going that far. But not because I was angry. Because I had finally become untouchable. The next wave came fast. A long, desperate email from my father. He called it a misunderstanding. Said they didn't mean to exclude me, that the gift was meant to be a surprise, and that the invoice was just a joke that was badly timed. He begged me to withdraw the legal letters. Said it was Christmas. Said families fight. And he ended it with a line that made me stare at my screen for a full minute in disbelief. "At the end of the day, you're still our daughter. And with your success, what's $70,000 really? A drop in the ocean. A drop in the ocean." I could have thrown my laptop across the room. But I didn't. Because I was too busy planning phase 2. While they scrambled to fix their mess behind the scenes, I reached out to a family friend. Ms. Leona, a semi-retired accountant who'd quietly advised me for years. I asked her to help me organize a forensic financial review of every gift or favor I had extended to family since I started earning. We compiled a document so detailed it could make a tax auditor weep. Each entry had date of payment, amount transferred, recipient, reason for payment, promised return terms, supporting messages, emails, texts, voice notes. The total? $193,472.65. That included Devin's tuition top-offs, Mom's debt settlement, Dad's truck repair loan, Daniel's rent, And even grandma's stolen medical bills that they said would be handled internally. And then, using my attorney, we served them all again. This time, officially. Not just demand letters. Civil claims. Each tied to specific transactions. Each with hard evidence. You know what happens when people who think they're above consequences get legal documents hand-delivered by process servers? They panic. Hard. The calls came flooding in. From cousins. From Uncle Ray. From my father again. Even Devin, the same brother who accepted a Mercedes I was tricked into paying for, left me a voicemail with tears in his voice. Come on, sis. I didn't know. I thought they were covering it. I wouldn't have accepted it if I knew it was on you. But he had known. There were receipts. Literally. Screenshots of him approving the delivery and laughing in the family group about how I probably wouldn't even notice. He thought I wouldn't notice $70,000. That's how invisible I'd become to them. And you know what? That voicemail? It didn't break me. It freed me. Because now I didn't just feel hurt. I felt clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was generational entitlement. I had been molded into a convenient tool, the successful one. The responsible one. The single one with no family of her own yet, who they all felt had time and money to spare. They didn't love me. They used me. And now they were shocked I'd stopped volunteering to be used. I posted a statement, vague, but pointed, on my private business blog. Not calling names. Not airing every detail. Just a reflection piece about financial abuse in families, about boundaries, and about what happens when the helper walks away. It went viral. Not because it was scandalous, but because it was true. Strangers flooded my inbox with their own stories. People I didn't know thanked me for saying what they were too afraid to say. And then came the kicker. One of Devin's Instagram friends, apparently still bitter over not being invited to the Christmas party either, sent me a private story screenshot. It showed Devin standing in front of the frozen Benz, captioned, "When you flex with what you didn't earn. Thanks," sis face with tears of joy. He thought it was funny. He thought I'd never see it. He thought wrong. The next day, I authorized my attorney to go forward with fraud claims. I called the dealership again and confirmed I wanted to repossess the vehicle. The car was picked up from the lake house driveway within 72 hours. Guess who was home to watch it happen? Dad. Devin. They watched as the red GLE coupe, still wrapped in a bow, was hooked to a flatbed and towed off the property. Devin tried to stop it. Yelled something about his image. About how this would make him look bad. But here's the thing about fake flexing. Eventually, the spotlight burns the liar, not the truth-teller. That night, I slept better than I had in months. But the revenge wasn't over yet. Because one more holiday was approaching. New Year's Eve. And this time, I had my own party to host. One they weren't invited to. One that would make headlines. But I wasn't just throwing a party. I was unveiling something. Something they never saw coming. I'd never hosted a New Year's Eve event before. Not because I couldn't. But because I always felt like I was just barely holding everything together by the time the year ended. I was always tired. Always recovering from whatever drama my family threw at me during the holidays. But not this time. This time, I wasn't cleaning up after anyone. I was celebrating me. It started as a joke. A few friends and colleagues saying, "You should throw your own party this year." But then I realized, why not? I had the space. I had the money. And most importantly, I had the reason. I wasn't just ringing in the new year. I was closing a door. No, slamming it shut, on every version of myself that kept trying to be enough for people who didn't even want me at the table unless I came bearing gifts. I booked out the rooftop floor of a luxury boutique hotel downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Sky view. Black and gold decor. A jazz trio, a champagne wall, a velvet guest list. It was stunning. And it wasn't petty. It was intentional. I didn't post any photos leading up to it. No flyers. No open invites. This wasn't about optics. This was about power. Only people who respected me were invited. No charity cases. No emotional vampires. No "what can you do for me" tag-alongs. My list included the creative director who gave me my first big break. My college roommate who lent me $50 and half a fridge once. The assistant I promoted to lead strategist. My therapist. My new lawyer. And Leona, my accountant turned co-conspirator. They were my real people. The ones who didn't shrink me. The party started at 8 p.m. By 9, the room was glowing with warm laughter, bold energy, and not a single fake compliment in sight. At 10, I took the mic and made a small speech. I didn't name names. I didn't even mention what had happened over Christmas. I just said this. Sometimes, people will drain you and still call you selfish when you finally say, enough. This year, I learned that being kind and being available are not the same thing. And from here on out, I protect my peace with the same energy I once protected other people's feelings. The room clapped. But what I didn't say, what none of them knew yet, was that this party was also the launch of something much bigger. At 11:30, I stepped into the spotlight and introduced a short film. It was only 5 minutes long. But it told a story. A woman. A family. Financial manipulation. Emotional exile. A decision to fight back. And in the end, a woman standing tall as everything that tried to bury her crumbled behind her. The film faded to black with 5 words. This is how I rise. Then came the big reveal. My new company. A boutique consulting firm for women navigating toxic families, high-pressure careers, and financial trauma. Name. Rise and Reclaim. Tagline. You don't owe them your silence. Every guest got a custom gift box. Inside, a journal titled, Write Your Own Legacy. A personalized note from me. And a small black key. Symbolic. You hold the key to your own peace. I posted the launch online at midnight. No drama. No dragging. Just truth. The engagement exploded. Hundreds of shares. Thousands of comments. People weren't just interested. They were thirsty for this kind of reclamation. By morning, we had over 2,000 sign-ups for our first workshop. And of course, that's when the calls started again. From them. From my family. First was Dad. A hesitant voice message. Saw your thing online. Looks big. Looks serious. Proud of you. Hope we can talk soon. Then Mom. So you're turning our private family struggles into a brand now? Real classy. And finally, Devon. Just one line. You're really doing all this over a car? I didn't respond. Because this was never about the car. It was about every moment they made me feel like I didn't belong unless I paid for my seat. And now, I owned the whole table. But just when I thought they'd disappear, go back to whispering behind closed doors, something else happened. Someone in the extended family posted a screenshot from my party on Facebook. It was innocent. Just a picture of me laughing with Leona and a caption that said, Proud of our girl. Long overdue. The comments section? A battlefield. Some cousins cheering me on. Others passive-aggressively asking, why wasn't this sent to the family thread? Then someone, I won't name who, dropped a bombshell. Y'all really gonna act like she wasn't the one who paid for Devon's entire degree and still got iced out of Christmas? That girl deserves a parade. That post went semi-viral in our local circles. Suddenly, old secrets weren't secret anymore. People started putting the pieces together. The cousin who once asked me for rent money? Commented. This explains why she stopped replying. I owe you an apology. Even Uncle Ray, who co-signed the fake invoice with Mom, sent me a message. Didn't realize how far it had gone. I was wrong to co-sign that. Hope you find peace. It wasn't redemption. But it was validation. And then, just when I thought the year had ended with perfect closure, the final card dropped. A legal notice. Not from me. From them. My mother was suing me for intentional emotional distress and reputational harm. Apparently, my blog post, my film, and my company launch had defamed the family name. I laughed so hard I cried. They'd gone from deleting me, to billing me, to trying to sue me, for telling the truth. And the best part? I had receipts for everything. Let them come. Because now, I wasn't just ready to defend myself. I was ready to expose everything they ever tried to hide. The envelope was thick and white, embossed with gold trim like it was supposed to intimidate me. It didn't. Inside was a cease and desist letter, followed by a formal intent to sue. The letterhead was from some boutique family law firm I'd never heard of, and the wording was exactly what you'd expect. Our client, mother's full name, asserts that your recent public commentary, business branding, and media content have caused emotional distress, reputational damage, and financial harm. It went on. For pages of delusion, paranoia, and rewritten history. She didn't even have the guts to sign it herself. Just a cold, formal signature from the attorney. Like I was a stranger. A threat. It was laughable. But also revealing. Because for years, she'd treated me like the help. A utility. A quiet, obedient daughter who wouldn't make waves. Just cover bills and say, thank you when she got crumbs in return. Now, I was powerful enough to scare her into lawyering up. And I hadn't even said her name publicly. But the guilt she felt? That wasn't on me. It was her own shadow chasing her. I handed the letter to my attorney, who barely blinked before chuckling. She's got no case, he said. Your materials are vague, protected by free speech, and fact-based. And let's not forget, you have documentation for every financial transaction. If anything, this lawsuit opens her up to discovery. That word, discovery, made me pause. Because if she really went through with this, we could subpoena bank records, text messages, emails, family group chats, even medical files. And everything she swept under the rug would come crawling into the light. I decided not to settle, not to back down, and definitely not to retract a word I'd said. Instead, I prepared to countersue. For fraud, identity theft, emotional abuse, and yes, repayment of $193,472.65 in financial damages. But I didn't just want a courtroom showdown. I wanted the truth to breathe. So I did something my mother never expected. I told my story. On a podcast. A major one. A women-led, investigative series that unpacked toxic family systems and financial trauma. I didn't name names. I didn't say my mother or my brother. I just said, there was a Christmas I wasn't invited to. But they still sent me the bill for a luxury car. And that's when I knew, I wasn't part of the family. I was just the funding. The episode went viral. Comments flooded in. Messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Even colleagues who had no idea what I'd been holding inside said, that sounded like you. I knew it. I'm proud of you. One woman, a mother of two, wrote, you just saved me from signing away my daughter's future. I won't repeat the cycle my family gave me. I cried. Because this wasn't just revenge anymore. It was redemption. And just when I thought it couldn't get better, it did. The podcast producer called me back 2 weeks later with an offer. A book deal. A memoir. Raw. Real. Anonymous if I preferred, but entirely mine to shape. I said yes. Because my story wasn't rare. It was silenced. And silence is where generational abuse thrives. Meanwhile, back in my hometown, the lawsuit imploded. The firm representing my mother dropped her after realizing she had lied about several financial documents she'd provided. They cited ethical concerns and formally withdrew from the case. That's when the dam broke. Devin, finally realizing just how deep he was in, called me, voice trembling. They used your name for everything, he admitted. Not just the car. The utilities at the lake house? The second mortgage? You didn't know? No, I said. I didn't. Turns out, my mother had reused an old power of attorney form, one I'd signed when she was sick years ago, to apply for extensions and loans in my name. And not just for herself. For other family members too. I reported it. Officially. And I filed paperwork to revoke all access, freeze any open accounts, and audit every active line of credit linked to me. It took weeks. But by the end of February, they couldn't touch a dime of my life again. And as for the lawsuit? I didn't just defend myself. I filed a counterclaim so detailed, so undeniable, that the mediator looked stunned after reading my documentation. You kept all of this? He asked. Yes, I said. Because they kept taking. We settled. Not for cash. But for public acknowledgement. They had to issue a statement, vague, but legal, admitting that unauthorized financial decisions had been made under my name, and that I bore no responsibility for any current or future debts linked to family assets. It was quiet, buried in the middle of a Tuesday news cycle. But I knew they saw it. And I knew they hated it. Because now, the lie was broken. And the person they used to call the emotional one? The overreactor? The just being dramatic sister? She was the one holding the pen. I changed my number. Blocked every route back in. Moved to a new apartment. Smaller, but with sunlight in every room. I planted flowers on the balcony. Started baking again. Started living again. I wasn't angry anymore. Just free. But there was one last thing. One final, private revenge that no one but me would ever understand. I bought the domain names for every one of my family members' full names. Yes, the .coms. And I built blank websites. Each one simply says, "You don't get to write my story anymore." I didn't link them to anything. Didn't tell a soul. But I know they'll find them someday. And when they do, they'll remember. I was the one they erased. But I'm the one who gets to document the truth. It was a quiet Saturday morning when the doorbell rang. I was in leggings and an oversized hoodie, sipping coffee and editing the final draft of my memoir. The book deal had gone through. Advance paid. Cover design approved. My face wouldn't be on it, but every word was mine, the kind I used to choke down, now pressed in ink on real paper, ready for the world. When the bell rang again, a second time, sharp, insistent, I assumed it was a delivery. Maybe another box of promotional copies. I opened the door. And there he was. Devin. Standing awkwardly on the porch, hands in the pockets of a coat I'd bought him 2 winters ago. The collar was up. His hair looked like he hadn't slept. But it was the look in his eyes that caught me. Not anger. Not guilt. Something else. Desperation. He started to speak, but I raised a hand. "You have 60 seconds, I said. Use them wisely." His mouth opened, but it took him a full 10 seconds to even get words out. "I didn't come here to fight," he said. "Or to apologize. I need to explain." I stared at him. "You had a lifetime for that. And 4 chapters of legal documentation." "I know," he said, eyes down. "But I didn't think she'd go that far. The lawsuit. The mortgage. The car. I thought you were untouchable. That you'd never do anything back." "That was the problem," I said. "You all counted on me staying silent." He nodded. "And I lost everything when you didn't." There it was. The truth. I didn't owe him softness. But I did need closure. I let him talk. He told me how the house was gone. The Mercedes had been auctioned off. His job let him go after the podcast episode went viral. Not because of me, but because it revealed a pattern they'd started noticing on their own. Apparently, the story had become a cautionary tale in professional circles. Don't bleed your successful family member dry and expect them not to notice. Devin said he was living with a friend now. Working retail. Trying to get back on his feet. I almost felt bad. Almost. But then he said it. "You won," he said, like it was a game. "You ruined everything, but you got to win." And that lit a fire in me. Because this wasn't about winning. It was about surviving. "No," I said calmly. "I didn't win. I survived your negligence. I survived Mom's control. I survived being erased. And then I rebuilt from the ashes you all handed me like a trophy. That's not winning. That's resurrection." He looked stunned. Like the words actually struck him in the chest. I stepped back toward the door. "Don't come here again," I said. "I forgave you a long time ago. But forgiveness isn't the same as access." He opened his mouth again, but I was already closing the door. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt clean. 3 weeks later, the book was released. The Cost of Being Chosen. How I Was the Family's Favorite ATM, Until I Closed the Account. It wasn't a bestseller. Not at first. But it sparked a wave. Podcasts invited me on. Financial blogs quoted my story. Therapists used it in sessions. And best of all, I started receiving letters. Handwritten ones. Typed ones. Emails. DMs. From men and women who had been me. "You gave me permission to say no."
I thought I was the only one.
I changed my will after reading your book. You saved my daughter from making the same mistakes. I didn't know how to process it all. But I knew one thing for sure. The girl they tried to shrink into silence? She became the blueprint for other women to rise. I started hosting private workshops. At first, just Zooms with 10 or 15 attendees. Then full-day retreats. All designed for people reclaiming their boundaries after being emotionally and financially exploited by family. One day, at one of those events, a woman asked me during Q&A, "Do you ever miss them?" The room went still. I thought about the question. And finally said, "I miss the version of them I used to believe in. But I don't miss being disposable." Everyone nodded. We all knew what that meant. There's a grieving process when you let go of toxic family. And it's not pretty. It's not clean. But it's liberating. And the final act of revenge? Living well. Not in spite of them. But far, far beyond them. This story didn't end with court settlements. It didn't end with a podcast or a car repossession. It ended the moment I realized I no longer needed their approval to exist. And in that silence, I heard my own voice for the first time. And she was powerful.